Welcome to Famous People, English Stories. Ready to level up your English? Here we learn through stories slow, clear, and fun. Listen, relax, and enjoy the journey.
Introduction. Today, we begin the story of Maya, a young woman whose ordinary life hides an extraordinary strength. She doesn't have superpowers. She doesn't come from a rich family. She doesn't even know yet what she wants in life. But she's about to discover the one force that can change everything: self-discipline. Before we dive in, tell us in the comments about your experience with self-discipline. What helps you stay focused? Or what challenges do you face? We'd love to hear your story. Chapter 1: The Alarm Clock War. It was 5:45 a.m. The alarm buzzed angrily. Maya's hand flew out from under the blanket and slapped it off. Silence returned. Her eyes stayed shut. Her bed was warm. Her dreams were soft. And the world outside was still dark and cold. She didn't have to be up this early. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't training for the Olympics. She was just a university student. A tired one. One who had told herself, again, that this time she would change. That this time she would wake up early, go for a run, read a chapter of her book, and make a healthy breakfast before class. But here she was, lying in bed, fighting with the part of herself that wanted comfort more than progress. The alarm buzzed again. 6 a.m. This time, she opened one eye. She looked at the ceiling. Then the wall. Then the corner of her room where her running shoes waited, clean and unused. "You can do this," she whispered. "No, you can't," her sleepy brain replied. But something strange happened. She sat up. The first victory of the day. Not many people talk about how hard it is to win these small battles. How much strength it takes to fight your own habits. But this morning, Maya won. She stood up, stretched, pulled on her running shoes, and walked out into the quiet street. As she ran, her breath grew heavy. Her legs burned. But she felt something more powerful than the pain. She felt alive. Maya wasn't always like this. A few months ago, she was the queen of comfort. She binge-watched shows for hours. She scrolled endlessly through social media. She ate junk food late at night. She promised herself she'd change tomorrow. But tomorrow kept moving further away. It wasn't a dramatic moment that changed her. No accident. No heartbreak. Just one evening, standing in front of the mirror, she felt tired of lying to herself. She didn't hate her life. But she didn't love it either. And that was the problem. "I can do more than this," she said out loud. "But it's going to take work." And she was right. Change didn't come like a storm. It came like a dripping faucet. One drop at a time. One hard decision after another. One moment of self-discipline layered on the next. Waking up early. Running. Reading. Eating better. Turning off her phone. Writing her goals. Keeping promises to herself. She failed many times. She hit snooze. She skipped workouts. She gave in to cravings. But she kept coming back. That was the difference. She realized that self-discipline wasn't about being perfect. It was about being consistent. Showing up when you don't feel like it. Doing what's right when no one is watching. Building strength in silence. That morning, Maya ran past a bakery. The smell of fresh croissants tempted her. Her stomach growled. Her legs wanted to stop. Her mind screamed, "You earned a reward." But she smiled and whispered, "Not yet." She ran past it. Straight home. When she finally sat down with her homemade breakfast, eggs, toast, and a cup of green tea, it wasn't just food. It was proof. Proof that she was no longer a prisoner of her old habits. Proof that change was possible. Proof that she was building something far more valuable than comfort, character. Maya didn't feel like a hero. She didn't post about it. No one clapped for her. But that day, she had won the alarm clock war. And she knew that if she could win that battle today, she could win it again tomorrow. And maybe, just maybe, she was on her way to becoming the kind of woman she had always dreamed of being, not because of talent or luck, but because she was learning to master herself. Chapter 2: The Temptation Trap. Maya felt good. It had been 2 weeks since she started her new routine. Waking up early. Running every morning. Reading more. Eating better. Journaling at night. She was even sleeping earlier and drinking more water. For the first time in a long time, she felt in control. But what Maya didn't know, what no one warns you about, is that success brings its own kind of danger. Not in the form of failure, but in the form of temptation. And the first temptation came wearing lipstick and carrying a phone. Her name was Carla. Maya's best friend. It was Friday evening. Maya had just finished her last class of the week. She walked through the university hallway, tired but satisfied. She had turned in an essay early, skipped the campus cafe to avoid sugar, and finished her morning run despite heavy rain. As she stepped outside, she felt a buzz in her pocket. A message from Carla. "Girl. Movie night at my place. Popcorn, soda, pizza, and ice cream. Starts in 30. You have to come. Don't say no." Maya smiled. They used to do this every Friday. Until 2 weeks ago. That's when Maya started her routine. She hadn't seen Carla since. Her thumb hovered over the reply button. She missed Carla. She missed their silly jokes, the late-night gossip, the comfort of not trying to be better, just being. But then she looked down at her running shoes. Still wet from this morning. She looked at her notebook, where she had written, "Tonight, review goals, light dinner, sleep early." The war inside her began. "It's just one night," one voice said. "You've been good all week. You deserve it." But another voice whispered back, "That's what you said last time. And the time before that." She stood still for a full minute. The city moved around her. People laughed, cars passed, music played. Inside, she was completely silent. Then she typed, "Next Friday." I promise. Tonight I need to stay on track. She hit send and immediately felt a wave of sadness. She had chosen growth over comfort, discipline over fun. But the truth is, self-discipline can be lonely. That night, she ate her healthy meal in silence. She reviewed her goals. She wrote in her journal. But her heart felt heavy. And that's the thing no one tells you. Self-discipline is not just about saying yes to progress. It's about saying no to the people and things you love, at least temporarily. It's about missing out, letting go, pushing through. And it hurts. But somewhere deep inside, Maya knew this pain was necessary. Temporary. A growing pain. The next morning, she woke up without an alarm. Her body was getting used to this new rhythm. Her mind felt clearer. The sadness from the night before was still there, but weaker. She checked her phone. A message from Carla. I'm proud of you. Also, I fell asleep during the movie. Your boring life is rubbing off on me. Maya laughed. Temptation didn't always come in the form of parties or junk food. Sometimes it came dressed as old routines, as memories, as comfort zones, as the version of yourself that wants to stay the same. A few days later, another test arrived. It was a sunny afternoon, and Maya had a huge assignment due in 48 hours. Her plan was to start it today, finish by tomorrow evening, and rest the next day. Simple. But as she sat at her desk, her phone buzzed again. A short video clip. A funny meme. Then another. An hour passed. She hadn't written a word. She stared at the screen. Her chest tightened. How many times had this happened before? Procrastination. The silent thief. It always felt innocent until it stole your future. She closed her eyes, took a breath, and made a decision. She put her phone on airplane mode, threw it on the bed, and opened a blank document. That afternoon, she finished half the assignment. It felt good. Not exciting. Not entertaining. Just good. The kind of satisfaction that only comes from doing the hard thing. Later that night, she thought back to something she once read. Discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. And what she wanted most was a life of freedom, freedom from bad habits, from regret, from chaos. A life where her time, energy, and choices were her own. But that freedom had a price, sacrifice. She was paying that price day by day, choice by choice. And though temptation still knocked at her door, she no longer opened it blindly. She listened. She smiled. And then she quietly walked away. Because Maya was starting to understand something powerful. Self-discipline wasn't a punishment. It was a path. A path to the person she was meant to become. Chapter 3: The Mirror Moment. Maya was tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep could fix. Her body was fine. Her routine was strong. She hadn't missed a morning run in almost a month. Her diet was clean. Her grades were improving. She was, by all external measures, doing great. But something inside her felt hollow. She couldn't explain it. She was following all the rules she had created. But when she looked in the mirror, something was missing. One Sunday afternoon, Maya sat alone in the campus library. Her laptop screen glowed with notes and timelines. She had mapped out her goals for the next 3 months. Deadlines, reading lists, daily habits. It was organized. Impressive. But as she stared at the plan she had worked so hard on, a question floated into her mind. Why am I doing all this? She blinked. For a second, she couldn't remember. She had been so focused on the how to wake up early, how to study harder, how to say no, that she had forgotten the why. Why she began this journey in the first place. Why she wanted to become a better version of herself. The motivation that once burned bright inside her now felt dim, like a candle in the wind. She packed up her bag and left the library early. Back in her room, she stood in front of the mirror. She studied her face. Her tired eyes. Her sharp jawline. The dark circles beneath her eyes that even good sleep couldn't hide. They weren't from exhaustion. They were from something deeper, doubt. She whispered to her reflection, "What if none of this is enough?" The words hung in the air. No one had clapped when she said no to parties. No one gave her a medal for waking up at 5:45 a.m. Her achievements were quiet, invisible to most people. And suddenly, she felt like a ghost. A ghost haunting her own life, disciplined, but empty. She sat on her bed and opened a notebook. This one wasn't for goals or planning. It was her journal. The place she wrote when her thoughts became too loud. Entry: what if I'm just fooling myself? What if I'm building a life of routines without passion? I'm tired of pretending everything's okay. Maybe I'm not as strong as I thought. She closed the notebook and stared at the ceiling. Then something surprising happened. She remembered a day from childhood, an ordinary afternoon when she had fallen off her bike. Her knees were scraped. Her hands were bloody. Her father had rushed outside, picked her up, and carried her to the kitchen. As he cleaned her wounds, she cried, "I can't do it. I'll never ride again." But the next day, she got back on that bike. And the day after that, she rode without falling. She wasn't brave because she never felt fear. She was brave because she rode through it. And now, years later, she realized something important. Self-discipline wasn't supposed to make her feel perfect. It was supposed to give her the strength to ride through the pain. To keep showing up even when her heart felt heavy. To keep choosing what mattered, even when the spark went out. The mirror didn't lie. But it didn't tell the full story either. Her reflection showed the surface, tired eyes, quiet doubt. But her actions told the truth, persistence, growth, courage. So that night, Maya made a new rule. Not about food. Not about exercise. Not about productivity. It was about honesty. She would stop trying to look strong and start being real. When she didn't feel like running, she would still show up, but she'd admit that it was hard. When she lost motivation, she wouldn't punish herself. She would rest, reflect, remember her purpose. Self-discipline, she now understood, was not a straight line. It was a wave. Sometimes high with motivation, sometimes low with doubt, but always moving forward if she stayed with it. Before going to bed, she wrote another journal entry. Today, I didn't feel strong, but I kept going. That has to count for something. I'm not chasing perfection. I'm building resilience. And maybe that's enough for now. She closed the book, turned off the light, and fell asleep not with a smile, but with peace. Because now, Maya wasn't just following a routine. She was learning to listen to herself, to forgive herself, to trust that the journey was not about becoming someone else, but becoming herself, fully, honestly, day by day. And that, she realized, was the real foundation of self-discipline. Chapter 4: The Breaking Point. It happened on a Thursday. Maya woke up late. For the first time in 6 weeks, she had missed her alarm. No morning run. No quiet journaling. No time to breathe. She rushed to class, heart pounding, shoes untied. She arrived 10 minutes late. Her professor didn't look up. He just said, without emotion, "Please see me after class." The rest of the lecture blurred. After class, she approached his desk. He pulled out her paper. Her chest tightened. He placed it in front of her. It was marked in red. Large red letters at the top, 58%, see me for feedback. She stared at the number. It looked unreal, like someone else's grade. "I'm disappointed," the professor said softly. "You had potential. But this isn't your best work." He wasn't harsh. Just honest. That honesty hit harder than anger ever could. Maya nodded, lips tight, eyes burning. She walked out of the building, gripping her backpack like it could hold her together. By the time she reached the courtyard, tears were falling. She found a bench in the shade. She didn't care who saw her cry. All this effort. All the discipline. And still, failure. It felt like a slap in the face. She had sacrificed sleep, comfort, time with friends. She had said no when she wanted to say yes. She had done the hard thing every day. And yet, this. She pulled out her phone. Opened her journal app. Entry: I want to quit. I've done everything right. Why isn't it working? Maybe I'm not meant for this. Maybe I'm just pretending to be strong. She didn't press save. She just stared at the words. Then she deleted them. Not because they weren't true, but because they weren't the whole truth. She thought about the moments behind the scenes, the days no one saw her show up. The nights she stayed up learning when she could have just watched TV. The runs in the rain. The cravings she resisted. The small victories. That one grade didn't erase all of that. But it hurt. And she needed to admit it. She didn't go back to her dorm. Instead, she went to the quietest part of campus, the old art building, nearly empty this time of day. She walked into a dusty room full of easels and blank canvases. She didn't know why. She wasn't a painter. She sat on the floor and breathed. Slowly, her mind began to settle. Like a storm passing. She remembered something a mentor once told her. You will hit walls. Real walls. Not in your path, but inside yourself. Self-discipline means learning how to climb them, break them, or rest beside them without giving up. That was today. Today was her wall. And she had a choice. She could walk away. Call it unfair. Let the pain define her. Or she could learn from it. She took out the paper. Looked at the comments. Her professor wasn't cruel. He had marked where her argument lost clarity. Where her structure needed work. Where she had rushed. He was right. It wasn't her best. It was honest feedback, and maybe that was the gift inside the failure. Not punishment. Not proof of weakness. But a lesson she didn't want to hear. She took a deep breath. Then another. That night, she did something she hadn't done in a while. She called her mother. She hadn't told her about the disciplined routine. She wanted to prove herself first. But now, she just wanted to hear a voice that loved her no matter what. Her mother listened quietly. And then said, you don't have to be perfect to be proud of yourself. Strength isn't how straight you walk the path, it's that you keep walking even when you limp. Maya smiled through tears. That night, she didn't run. Didn't study. Didn't write a to-do list. She just sat with herself. And that, too, was discipline. The discipline to rest. The discipline to feel pain and not hide it. The discipline to begin again tomorrow. Because self-discipline isn't a straight road paved with gold stars. It's a long, uneven path. Sometimes smooth. Sometimes rocky. Sometimes it breaks you. But if you keep going, especially when it's hard, something powerful happens. You discover who you really are beneath the surface. And that's when Maya knew. She hadn't failed. She had felt failure. And that feeling was her fire. Tomorrow, she would rise, not because she had to, but because she chose to. And that choice would always be hers. Chapter 5: The Rise Within. The morning after her breakdown, Maya stood in front of her mirror. Her eyes were puffy. Her body felt heavy. But she was standing. She tied her hair back slowly. The usual energy was missing, but she wasn't giving up. That day, she didn't follow her routine perfectly. She didn't go for a run or journal. She didn't study for extra hours or read motivational quotes. Instead, she showed up to her class on time. She smiled at the professor, even though it hurt a little. And she sat down with an open notebook, not just open on her desk, but open in her mind too. And that was the beginning of something different. Maya started to rebuild, not with force, but with care. She no longer rushed through her tasks. She took breaks. She started asking questions instead of pretending to have all the answers. She spent more time in silence, reflecting not on what she had failed to do, but on what she still had the power to become. It wasn't about perfection anymore. It was about presence. Over the next few weeks, something inside her shifted. She stopped trying to look strong on the outside and began working on the inside. When others rushed to compete, Maya stayed calm. When others compared grades, she focused on feedback. When she didn't understand something, she no longer panicked, she simply asked for help. That one action, asking, brought surprising results. One afternoon, after class, a girl named Aisha approached her. "Hey, I've seen you around. You seem so focused. Can I ask how you stay so disciplined?" Maya blinked. For a second, she didn't know how to respond. Focused? Disciplined? She had cried on a bench just weeks ago, doubting everything. But now, someone saw her as strong. She smiled gently. "Honestly? I just try to keep going, even when I don't feel like it. Especially then." Aisha nodded slowly. "I've been struggling. I thought maybe I was the only one." "You're definitely not," Maya said. "Let's study together sometime." That small offer opened a door. More students began to connect with her. Not because she was perfect, but because she was honest. Maya became known for listening without judgment, for offering quiet support, and for showing that failure was not the end, but a step. She didn't plan to become a leader. But real leadership often happens that way, quietly, humbly, from within. Maya's habits returned, but they looked different now. Her morning runs were slower, but more peaceful. Her journaling became deeper, more real. She no longer forced herself to read 10 pages a night. She read until she truly understood, even if it was just 1 page. She no longer pushed pain away. She faced it. Wrote about it. Sat with it. And she became stronger. Not the hard kind of strong. Not the don't cry kind. But the kind of strength that lets you cry and still show up. Her grades slowly improved. But more importantly, her confidence grew, not in what she could do, but in who she was becoming. One afternoon, during a group discussion in class, Maya surprised even herself. She spoke up. Clearly. Calmly. She challenged an idea, but with respect and curiosity. The professor raised an eyebrow and smiled. "Well argued, Maya. That's the kind of thinking I want to see." The class nodded. And for the first time, Maya didn't feel like an imposter. She felt like she belonged. Not because of one great comment. Not because of one good grade. But because she had stayed. She had weathered the storm inside herself. And now, she was blooming. Quietly. Steadily. One choice at a time. Later that evening, she wrote in her journal. "Discipline isn't about being the best every day. It's about showing up on your worst day and whispering, 'I'm not done yet.'" That whisper had become her power. And that power no longer needed to shout. Because Maya had risen. From the silence. From the struggle. From within. Chapter 6, The Mirror Moment. Maya didn't notice the change at first. Because real growth doesn't happen like a switch being flipped. It happens quietly, like a seed pushing through the soil long before anyone sees a leaf. But change was there. In her voice. In her pace. In the way she looked people in the eye and didn't rush to fill silences with noise. One evening, near the end of the semester, she walked into the campus library. The sun was setting, painting the tall windows with gold. It had been a long day, but she felt light, not tired, but full. She had just submitted her final essay for the class that once made her cry. And this time, she wasn't afraid of the grade. She had given it everything, not just time, but truth. Not just words, but heart. On her way out, she passed the large glass doors. Something about the fading light caught her attention. She paused. In the reflection, she saw herself standing tall, calm, eyes steady. Not perfect. Not polished. But present. For a long time, Maya had chased someone else's idea of success. She had imagined that self-discipline looked like cold control, no mistakes, no breaks, no softness. But the woman in the glass looked different. She looked alive. And Maya realized something. All along, she had thought self-discipline was about restriction. Now she saw it was about liberation. It wasn't about denying who she was. It was about honoring who she could become. Not by force, but by choice. Every time she got up after failing, she had practiced self-discipline. Every time she chose reflection over reaction, she had exercised strength. And every time she listened to herself, not the noise around her, she had built something no one could take away. Trust. She trusted herself now. That didn't mean she had all the answers. It meant she could find them. Slowly. Honestly. On her own terms. And that trust, that quiet, solid trust, changed everything. The next day, her professor returned the final essays. Maya opened hers carefully. There were notes in the margins, thoughtful, direct. But this time, the grade wasn't the first thing she saw. It was the last. 92%. Excellent progress. Mature thought. Keep going. She smiled, but not because of the number. She smiled because she agreed. She had made progress. And not just in her writing. In her life. She remembered how broken she had felt just weeks ago. How close she had come to quitting. And now here she was. Standing stronger, wiser, more grounded. That evening, she took a walk by the river near campus. The breeze was cool. The path was quiet. And for the first time in a long time, she walked without needing to be anywhere. She just walked. For herself. She thought about all the people who had asked her how she stayed disciplined. How she stayed motivated. How she made it look easy. She wished she could tell them the truth, the full truth. That it had never been easy. That she had doubted herself every step. That she had failed, cried, and nearly given up. But also, that those moments were not the end. They were the middle. And that the middle is where the story grows. That night, she wrote one final journal entry for the semester. Self-discipline is not the absence of weakness. It's the decision to return to strength again and again, no matter how far you've fallen. The mirror doesn't lie. I'm not who I was. I'm becoming who I am. She closed the journal, looked out the window, and smiled again. Not for the world. For herself. Because this was her mirror moment. And she finally saw what was there all along. Chapter 7: The Voice of Impact. Maya never planned to speak in front of a crowd. She was the quiet kind. The listener. The thinker. But sometimes life waits patiently, then gently calls you forward. It started with an email. One of Maya's professors had nominated her to speak at the university's annual Student Growth Forum, a small event where students shared personal stories of challenge and change. At first, Maya laughed. Out loud. There had to be a mistake. She had no dramatic achievement. No flashy award. Just a few good grades, a cleaner mind, a stronger heart. But then she read the professor's message again. I've seen more growth in you than in any other student this year. You don't need to impress anyone. Just be real. That's what people need. Those last words stayed with her. Just be real. So she said yes. And 3 weeks later, she stood behind a small wooden podium, her heart thumping. The room wasn't packed, maybe 40 people. But it felt like 400. Maya cleared her throat. Her voice trembled. But then she looked around the room and saw faces that looked familiar. Some of them nervous. Some tired. Some simply curious. And she began. I used to think self-discipline meant being hard on myself, she said. It meant waking up early, pushing harder, staying strong no matter what. She paused. I was wrong. Silence. Attention. I was disciplined, yes. But also tired. Angry. Afraid. Until I broke down in the middle of the semester and thought about quitting everything. That's when I learned something important. She looked down for a moment, then back up. Discipline isn't about force. It's about faith. Faith that if I show up, tired, messy, imperfect, I am still worthy of trying again. Maya shared her story slowly, honestly. She talked about the journal. The tears. The silence. The reflection. The rebuild. She talked about choosing presence over perfection. Progress over pride. Rest over burnout. And when she finished, the room was silent. Then someone clapped. Then another. Then all of them. Not just polite applause, real, warm, honest appreciation. After the event, a girl walked up to her with wet eyes. I didn't know anyone else felt like that, she whispered. Thank you. A boy added, you made me think. I've been pushing so hard, and I thought I was just lazy when I burned out. Another voice, that journal thing. I'm going to try it. One by one, students thanked her, not for her answers, but for her truth. In the following days, Maya received messages from students she didn't know. Some asked to talk. Some just said thank you. She began sharing short reflections on the student board, simple thoughts about motivation, self-kindness, and small wins. She didn't try to sound smart. Just honest. And people listened. Not because she told them what to do, but because she had walked through the storm and wasn't afraid to show her scars. That was her impact. She didn't lead with power. She led with presence. She didn't lead from the front. She led from the center of her own life. Her story became more than just hers. It became a bridge. A reminder that others were not alone. That discipline didn't have to be loud. That quiet, steady courage could shape lives. And so, Maya's voice, once shaky, unsure, became something else. It became steady, kind, real, and powerful. She had found her strength not by standing above others, but by standing beside them. Chapter 8, Unshakable. Life has a way of testing us when we least expect it. Just as Maya felt she was settling into a new rhythm, something happened that shook her deeply. One evening, she received a call from home. Her mother's voice trembled. Her father was seriously ill. Maya's world paused. The future she had carefully planned suddenly blurred. Her mind flooded with worries. Would she have time to study? Would she be able to help her family? Could she hold it all together? For a moment, the old fear crept in. The fear that everything would collapse. That she would fail again. But something else stirred inside. A calm she hadn't known before. Maya breathed deeply. She remembered the lessons she had learned. Discipline was not about never breaking. It was about getting up when broken. It was about facing the storm, not with denial or anger, but with acceptance and courage. She arranged her schedule. She told her professors honestly. She asked for support. And she showed up. Not perfectly, but consistently. Some days were harder than others. There were moments when tears came unexpectedly. Moments when the weight felt unbearable. But Maya kept returning to her journal. Writing down what she felt. What she needed. What she hoped for. Her words became a lifeline. A reminder that she was more than her struggles. More than her fears. She was a fighter. Not because she never felt weak, but because she refused to stay weak. Weeks passed. Her father's health improved slowly. And Maya's own strength grew. She learned to balance. To prioritize. To be kind to herself. Her self-discipline had transformed. It was no longer about rigid control. It was about flexible resilience. About moving forward even when the path was unclear. About holding hope and reality together. One afternoon, as Maya sat quietly by the window, a friend asked, "How do you do it? How do you keep going?" Maya smiled softly. "I don't have all the answers," she said. "But I've learned that self-discipline means being unshakable, not because you never fall, but because you always stand back up." Her friend nodded thoughtfully. And that makes all the difference. Maya looked outside at the fading light. She felt a deep gratitude, not for the easy days, but for the hard ones that taught her how strong she truly was. Her journey was far from over, but now she faced it unshaken. Steady, present, ready. If Maya's journey inspired you, take a moment today to reflect on your own path. What small step towards self-discipline can you take right now? Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about showing up for yourself again and again. If you enjoyed this story and want more like it, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to leave a comment below telling us about a moment when you found your own strength. Let's grow stronger together, one step at a time.